It's 2020, baby, and we are back to bring you the hottest, coolest Kickstarter Pickstarters for the week of January 6th, 2020.
Alder Quest is our first pick of 2020 from Rock Manor Games. In this one, you're trying to gain dominion over the forest. You're choosing one group, a leader, and then some minions of various forest creatures with their own special powers. And you're going out and trying to collect runes and acorns. The interesting mechanic that this one brings to the table is Match 3, as in those games that you're familiar with, probably from your mobile devices, Candy Crush, Bejeweled, etc. There is a board that simulates a puzzle grid, and different tiles that you receive will fall into it, and you will have to remove them at certain times, using gravity, although it is flat on the board, the way that they would fall in, because you'll be removing 3 if 3 of the same type are matching each other. And that can get you special powers and points, or you might want to take the colors that your opponents are trying to get by matching those, because everyone shares the same grid. There's also a board in the center where you'll be sending minions out to collect new kinds of acorns. Some of those will be points, and if you match those, you'll get the points. Some of them might be traps that your opponents have laid for you, so you have to be careful. And there's even this little centerpiece with a 3D tree that kind of, to me, is reminiscent of Everdell. But you try to move the acorns up that tree in order for you to get them to the match 3 board, so you can try to score them later on. You have special powers and things, so you can swap some of those tiles to make the matches. And it even has an element of, like in those match 3 video games, where you might be able to set up a combo and one goes off, the other one falls down, and then you can trigger multiple matches in one turn. Kind of an interesting idea, I think, to bring that into the board game space, but it's more than just that.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good mechanic to base off, because whether you think, what are your thoughts on phone games? The Match 3 is a very popular one. And taking out microtransactions, taking it beyond just the Match 3 can do some really cool things. I remember there was an old, I can't remember if it was DS or Game Boy Advance, it was Puzzle Quest, I think it was called.
Puzzle Quest, yeah.
That was
still around. Yeah.
It was really fun, and by taking it more as a mechanic instead of the sort of core of your game and adding more other weird stuff can really, I think, add some fun things. So it does sound interesting.
Yeah, I agree. So this one is Alder Quest, and it's for $34, which isn't too bad. You can check it out now.
With All or None Games, we're going to go on a little trip to a world where things are a little different, where the fays and fairies of European mythology exist, with Betwixt and Between. In this game, you play as a mystic, and you will be playing cards with different kinds of cryptid creatures, fairies, goblins, mostly from European lore, onto a board. These cards will actually have crystals added to them, as well as allow you to affect other cards, moving them around in placements. This will allow you to actually collect some of these crystals and put them onto your board. What's cool about this is your board is a dot grid where you'll put these crystals and different patterns and stuff in order to cast spells. This sounds like sort of this fun, interesting way to not just board control, but also make, to me, remind me of constellations or something with the crystals to cast weird spells. So there's a lot more of not just, oh, I'm just going to move all the creatures around to get the most of stuff. You're I really need to put them in this weird order. So I thought that was a bit interesting. Plus, I think maybe just because I started listening to a new podcast called Lore with a bunch of weird fairies and stuff like that. So the art and style is intriguing to me.
Yeah, I think that's always cool. I feel like I've seen it in some video games where when you cast a magic spell, it's you have to, trace a certain pattern or something like that. It makes it feel more like...
Pottermore used to have, or
probably.
When it first came out.
It makes it feel like you're really a wizard in some way, right? It's kind of cool, yeah.
This is for $52 for the game. They also have art book as well if you just like the art of all the fairies and other creatures. Let us know what you think about it.
Warp's Edge is the second game in Renegade Game Studios' Solo Heroes series. This is a series of games for just one player. This one has a sci-fi setting. You have a spaceship, and you're taking on other spaceships, and ultimately you're trying to defeat an evil mothership. So there's going to be a series of cards that represent your enemies, and you're going to be drawing tokens from a bag. Now, depending on which tokens you get and how you want to use them, you can spend them to attack your enemies, you can use them to power up your shield, some other things, and try to defeat the enemies while keeping yourself alive long enough to take on the final big boss. At certain points, if you run out of tokens, you'll then be warping away, and you'll get new skills, which are permanent abilities your ship has, and then you'll clear the field and start a new round, essentially, with these new skills. So as you go, you kind of level up your ship, but every time you warp, that also means time is running out, so you have to be careful. And there's also a storybook involved with this that you'll be reading, and that can determine the setup of your missions. So I think that's nice with a solo game because sometimes, they can feel very much like classical kind of solitaire where it's just, just another game. This one gives you a little more of that theme, a little more of that atmosphere, and depending on what you're doing might actually change up how you play and your strategy. Didn't get a chance to play the other solo hero game that came out somewhat recently, I think, at retail, but I love the idea of it. This one comes from the designer who also did the Tiny Epic games, so I believe those are supposed to have good solo modes as well. But, it seemed like a tried and true, pretty easy recommendation from Renegade, and as always, I'm in favor of more of these solo games.
Yeah, I'm excited at this whole series line that they're going to do and see where they go from there.
Yeah, it seems like this one is maybe pretty different from the first one.
I hope that's the case, because it would be a little sad if they're just like...
they're not just no reskin.
One card, yeah.
Right. So for $35, you can try out Warp's Edge.
What Happened to Evy Ashwood is a new one-shot D&D 5e adventure with some Lovecraftian inspiration. In this, you will play as level 6 characters, and you will try to find out what happened to Evy Ashwood. She is a student at the Academy for Alchemy, and she's been missing for a little while. So you're going to have to go to the watchtower where she's been residing and find out what went wrong. And if you haven't guessed by inspired by Lovecraft, things aren't going that well. They do have a new creation in there, actually called Nameless Creations, a new monster for you to deal with. And it's a one-shot that I just thought sounded really fun, and maybe you could actually just tie it in with your story, because like I said, you can start at level 6, but you probably could easily just add this to your campaign when people hit 6 and change names if you need be.
Yeah.
Simple, small thing, but I thought it was a fun little...
Yeah, I think it's cool whenever there's an RPG that has like a mystery hook for your adventure. So that's fun. I wonder how much of it delves into like trying to find out what happened versus we found out what happened. Now we know there's 8 monsters we need to go kill or something like that. Either way is fun.
This is, of course, a Kickstarter RPG, which means usually you're going to have a digital versus a physical, and it starts around 8 for the digital stuff, and you can get more for the physical, I think 16. And because it funded so quickly, they're adding some stretch goals now, so maybe keep an eye on this and see if they add more stuff. I want to do a small mini quick shout out for the Apex deck building game that we saw Kickstarter for. The reason why I didn't want to make this a full pick was it's sort of in a weird place. I don't know if you remember, but it was a very early Kickstarter. I think it came out around when we started Roll for Crit, and I backed it, and I have the old base. They made a second one, some updated stuff, but then some issues happened with the creator, and it got picked up by some other people who have been in communication with trying to get people what they missed out on, the cores and some expansions. But they started this new one that has all the stuff, but it doesn't have a video. They didn't do the FAQ right. These people I know have been staying in communications, doing at least talking with people. It's just, I feel this Kickstarter probably, I think it might be close to funding still, but I think they need to add a couple more things right now. And the game itself, it was fun and great art. It just, I think in terms of making a Kickstarter page, is where they need some help on.
A few maybe with the history of it, like maybe not quite red flags, but something's a little concerning.
It would be red flags if I wasn't backer of the previous stuff, so I know that they've been talking, which is like the biggest green flag you can get in terms of. So it's something to maybe keep an eye on. They might do one of those things where they cancel and reboot it.
Hopefully it works out, because I know that game has been out of commission for a while.
It's in a weird spot, and I love the idea behind it. And it is a game that's perfectly expandable with all the fun creations. And yes, dinosaurs. Will loves dinosaurs. So.
He loves them. Do you love dinosaurs? Do you love any of the other picks that we had this week? We also haven't done a Pickstarter in almost a month, I think. So if there's something that we missed over the past month that you were backing, you can let us know any of those thoughts that you have in the comments section down below. I know there was another one of those Sherlock Holmes graphic novel games from Van Ryder that I backed.
The Simon Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, was that in the last month too? And there's plenty of stuff. Let us know all the stuff that you were looking at. Again, comment section right down there. That'd be great. Till next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was our Kickstarter Pickstarter.
Catch the latest from Roll for Crit by liking and subscribing, and don't forget to support us on Patreon.
Don't get analysis paralysis. Just click those buttons. Help us out.